What is going on, everybody? The original Mako back, and we have some patch notes today to get into. Not a ton, but a few changes that I thought were worth talking about. So before we get into that, a couple of housekeeping things first. Make sure you check the links in the description as always. If you want to see me live, you can check out the Twitch link down below. But next week, I'm going to be trying something interesting where I'm going to be live streaming on Twitch and YouTube at the same exact time. So you can actually tune in right here to catch me live. So check that out. I'd really appreciate it. Also, make sure you check the link to the member screen down below. As you can see on the screen, we have a list of our members here. Thank you guys so much for your extra support. There are 4 tiers, 4 fun, unique perks that come with it, and it really helps the channel out a lot. And I'd really appreciate you guys checking it out. It would mean a lot to me. Like I said, it helps the channel out a ton, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. So, that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the talking about the patch notes, shall we? All right. I know I'm a little bit late on these, but that's fine. In this update, we added some new set effects in the Bizarre Dream Spiritual Link mode and adjusted the requirements of some other set effects. Besides, we had a balance adjustment for some spiritual blessings, ascensions, occult scrolls, and weapon inscriptions. The optimization of new content is still ongoing. Thank you for your support. Okay, great. So, as they said, they added a new set effect, like a new spiritual link. I don't know what it is because they didn't say what it is, but they added it. So I guess we'll see. I'm just going to have to learn and find out. And then adjusted the requirement for critical rush. Adjusted the requirement for some different set effects, and then changed what critical rush does. The old one was you have -1 second cooldown for your primary skill and dash when you crit. Next, the new one is the exact same thing, but it can only be triggered once every second. Also, adjusted the spawn rate of some mysterious chests, so they're going to spawn more often, I suppose. Removed an inscription, the Gemini inscription, where killing an enemy with the held weapon increases base damage of the next shot from the offhand weapon by plus 50%. Thank God. I don't know. Was anybody even using that? I don't know if anybody's ever used that in the history of this game. So great. That was a worthless inscription, and it being gone is great for the brand. Spiritual blessings. All right, let's talk about some spiritual blessings that got changed. So Oppressor, this is a really, really interesting one because this is like a massive change. The old one, when your current health percentage is greater than or equal to that of an enemy, you deal additional damage to them, and if it's less, you take 30% less damage from them. This was a really good remnant before, where you would deal more damage if you had more health, and then if you were like low on health, you would have built-in damage reduction, which is really useful. Now, restoring or losing health within the last 10 seconds increases max armor by the same amount of health change. The max bonus is determined by your max HP, and then restoring or losing armor within the last 10 seconds increases weapon damage and skill damage by the same percentage of armor change. The max bonus is determined by your max armor. So this is a lot more min-maxing going on here. I think I'd have to see exactly how this works. Like every 10 seconds, this just procs and then gives you these buffs. So obviously, there's the leap build that I talked about in my best builds video, which is based on armor. So having an extra way to get more armor is really nice. And then if you lose armor, you increase weapon damage and skill damage. So I'm thinking like all or nothing here. Will give you insane amount of weapon damage and skill damage. I don't know. I'm interested to see how this works. I think it has higher max potential, but is maybe just less. Like, you have to think about it a lot more, as opposed to Oppressor, where you're just running and gunning and getting all these extra effects. So it'll be interesting to see how this new Oppressor performs. Next up, Dimensional Strike, the monkey one. You get an additional Soul Strike usage, so now you get 3 total. But the weapon damage bonus goes from 40% to 30%. So you lose a little bit of weapon damage. I think overall it's a buff. The more ease you have, the better, especially if you're going for an E build, which is when you would want to take this. So I think that's great. Raging Inferno fixed an issue that the actual energy recovery speed is inconsistent with the description. So that's not really a big change there. So it just fixed it, really. So now it is even with the description. It does what it says it's going to do. And then maybe the most effective, so that's not impactful. That's the word I was looking for. I couldn't dig it out of my brain. Blossom Enthusiast. Hitting an unmarked enemy will mark them. This did not change. But instead of having -8 hits, so it only taking 2 hits to trigger, it's -6 to trigger the additional damage, so it'll take 4 hits. So this is a nerf. It is a decent nerf, but it's not going to change how broken this is. Once again, if we get to tier 3, or I guess, yeah, so -4 will be kind of the max now that you can get to. Or 4 hits total to trigger, which you can still trigger that pretty fast depending on what you're using. If you're using an illusion, it'll still trigger every shot. They're trying to nerf it, but I don't know how big of a deal this is gonna be. Obviously, for the biggest impact this probably has is for speedrunners. If you were using the bunny, because now you can't min-max as high as you could before, but for just casual runs that you're trying to win, you're still going to be hitting a lot of extra damage shots with this change. So I'm definitely gonna have to try it out and see how it feels. But on paper, it's gonna be perfectly fine unless you're speedrunning with the bunny. Next up, a couple more changes to heroes here. So Lee, she does get nerfed very slightly. So Conflagration increases spiritual base damage. It's just less now. I will say at tier 3, it's almost 100% less, which is a hefty chunk. But it's I mean, this is definitely a nerf, but it's not, kind of like Blossom Enthusiast. It's probably not going to make that big of a difference. It's just going to lower the maximum total damage output that you can do. Optimize the inscription selection of Ancient Etching on the monkey. I don't know what that means. It's just going to pick better inscriptions, hopefully, for Ancient Etching. I don't know. Optimize the description of Blade of Bloom for the bunny. And then Lay Low got some actual changes here, but all of the changes are to the Gifted Man talent, which can now be refreshed. So Gifted Man is the one where when you load into a game, you get 3 options of like extra perks to choose from. So these can be refreshed, and they got changed a little bit. So for this one, the old one was your shield won't break immediately after taking shield break damage, and you will be invincible for 2 seconds with a 180-second cooldown. New one is when the shield is broken, immediately fully restore the shield and become invincible for 2 seconds with a 120-second cooldown. The new one is obviously much better because you can proc the shield break, any shield break synergies that you have, and it has less cooldown, obviously. Next one. The old one was after casting Fatal Current, you remove self-elemental effects immediately. And in the next 2 seconds, you gain immunity to elemental effects and reduce damage taken by 60%. The new one, after casting Fatal Current, remove self-elemental effects immediately. In the next 2 seconds, gain immunity to elemental effect and reduce damage taken by 90%. So another big buff to that one. I mean, you're almost taking no damage at all. The old one for number 3 was plus 20 max shield and minus 50% shield recovery delay. The new one is it increases shield recovery speed by 30%, and delivering a critical hit makes the shield regenerate immediately. Another pretty good buff. You lose the 20 max shield, which is not great, but being able to recover shield immediately whenever you crit, and it recovers faster, really, really good. Fourth one. The old version was there's a 50% chance of not consuming a number of uses while using Chain Lightning during Fatal Current. The new one is during the Fatal Current, Chain Lightning does not cause any uses. There's no chances anymore. You just don't use your Q if you're in your E form. So another buff there. And then number 5, the old one was minus 0.2 seconds remaining cooldown of Fatal Current upon every hit caused by Chain Lightning. And the new one is plus 30% Chain Lightning damage for every enemy hit. So instead of cooling down your E, this one is just trying to use some more damage for your Chain Lightning in case you want to go for like a Chain Lightning type of build. All buffs pretty much. I mean, the last one maybe not, because not a lot of people do Q builds. But overall, mostly buffs for the Gifted Man talent options there. Next up, the probably second most impactful change is a change to Fish or Bear Paw. And this is one of the more interesting ones because every time they change the normal scroll, they got to change the enhanced version. And for me personally, I think the normal version is buffed and the enhanced version has been nerfed. But let's go ahead and talk about it. So the new normal Fish or Bear Paw. The old one was weapon damage minus 50%, but every attack hits twice. Now, this was really good because you're not losing any damage. Like, you're taking minus 50%, but since every attack hits twice, your damage output is still the same, but it's actually not because each individual hit has a chance to proc Lucky Shot, proc Elemental Effects. There's a lot of things in the game that are, like, buffed by how many times you hit or how quickly you hit, whether it's Merciless Combo, whether it's you're playing on the bunny and proccing the Fatal Bloom. There's a lot of good things that come from this scroll. The new one is minus 40% weapon damage and every attack hits twice, but it's only effective on up to 15 projectiles. So if you're using an illusion with like projectile up or something, like if you have more than 15 projectiles, the extra ones will not hit twice. However, for every excess projectile, you get increased weapon damage for that shot. So you're losing less damage, so you have more damage now. This is actually just a damage buff because every attack is still hitting twice, minus 40% weapon damage. And then if you happen to have more than 15 projectiles, the excess ones are giving you bonus damage for the shot, which isn't probably going to happen often, but will occasionally happen. Now, the enhanced version, the old one was minus 50% weapon damage. There's a 75% chance to deal weapon damage twice and a 25% to deal damage 3 times. Now, it is minus 25% weapon damage. Every attack hits twice, effective on up to 15 projectiles, and then for every excess projectile, you gain 4% weapon damage for the current shot. So here's why I think, even though, like, I understand minus 25% weapon damage is, like, you're barely losing any weapon damage and then just hitting twice. But here's the thing. I just talked about how many synergies there are with, like, the amount of times that you hit. And previously, there was a 25% chance, 1 in 4 times, when every hit was going to deal damage 3 times. You get 3, if you're using, let's say, an illusion, 12 projectiles, that's 36 hits. 36 hits in one shot. That is now impossible with the new one. And that would happen 1 out of every 4 times. So I think it was really, I think the enhanced version before was so good. I think the new enhanced version is still obviously fantastic, just not as good, which is weird because most of the time the normal scroll will kind of determine, okay, the normal scroll is better, so the enhanced version is going to be better, or the normal scroll is worse, the enhanced version is going to be worse. But no, I think the normal version got buffed, and I think the enhanced version got nerfed. Those are my thoughts, though. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. I obviously haven't had a chance to play with it, so let me know if you've had a chance to use it. A couple of UI options, not too much really there. I mean, the spiritual link info at the end panel is kind of good, but not too much crazy. And then a little bit of sound and text optimization, and then bug fixes. So If you've been having any issues and want to see if they have fixed your issues, you can check this here. A lot of Cloudweaver fixes. And then, yeah, just pause it, take a look. I'm not going to go through each one of these as per usual. And then they had an additional update that just fixed a couple more sound things. So there we go, everybody. That is it for these updates. A couple of interesting and impactful changes. That's why I wanted to talk about it. Now, they said earlier they were going to have new content at the end of the month. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. So hopefully early next month. But we'll see. Regardless, make sure you check those links down below. Like I said, this week I'm going to be testing something where I'm streaming on Twitch and YouTube at the same time. So come check it out. I would really appreciate it. It would be super cool. Regardless, hopefully you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for the support. I love each and every one of your faces, and I will catch you all in the next video.